Good morning, this is Matthew Lippard. I'm back here with another video. I've got a 2001 Mercury Sable. It has this 24 valve Duratec V6 engine. I've got to change the alternator. The alternator is way down there. You can barely see it. I've got it up on jack stands. I've got the front tire off. We're going to have to take this panel here off, and the alternator is going to have to come out through there. It's very hard to find videos on this, and the ones that I've seen are very unclear, so I wanted to do a video to hopefully help somebody with this. And once I get this panel off, I'll be back to share some more. Okay, I took out all these little plugs in there. I went up there. There's two screws right up there, and then the last one is down here. The screws are Phillips screwdrivers. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's right here. This is a 7/32 bolt, and then that inner panel will come off. There's another little shield right here. It has two bolts, one here and one over here. Those are 7/32 as well. I'm gonna pull that out, and then we should be able to see the alternator. Okay, that little piece is off. There's the alternator right there. So there's one bolt. There's two bolts on the top. I'm going to start by taking the belt off. I'll find the belt tensioner, get my tools. Then we'll take that belt off first, and then we'll see if we can locate these bolts. Okay, the belt is off. There's two bolts I'm going to have to get from up here. It's really difficult to try to hone in there and see it. There's one bolt right there, and the other bolt is back in here somewhere. I'm going to have to kind of feel my way around. But before I get started, I'm going to take off the negative battery terminal so that I don't have the 4th of July under there while I'm under there working. I've had that happen before, and it gets real ugly real fast. So now that that's done, now I can proceed. Okay, this bolt down here on the top of the alternator, I don't know if you can even see it. It's hard to see, but there's a bolt down there. I know I can't see it. Anyway, there's a back bolt to this alternator. There, you can see it. It has a nut on the outside, and then the bolt. The nut on the outside holds in this piece of the power steering pump, and you have to be able to take that off so you can get to the back bolt. And I had to take that nut off from the bottom. It was a half-inch. Took a half-inch wrench, and now I'm going to try to get the rest of this off. Okay, here's this other bolt right up here. Okay, I got the outside bolt off, which took a half-inch. This bolt to take the alternator off is an 18mm, and it looks like I have to do it from the bottom. I've tried to do it from the top and have not been very fortunate, so I'm going to attempt to do it from the bottom. Okay, I've got the alternator loose right there. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the wiring off of it. There's just no room with my big hands. So there's the crankcase pulley. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. It takes a 5/8 socket with an impact wrench, and it's reverse thread, so I have to turn it clockwise instead of counterclockwise. I'll yank that off, and then I'll come back. Now my crankshaft pulley is off. As you can see, that gives me a whole lot more room under there, so I should be able to bring that thing out fairly easy. Like I say, I still have to figure out how to get the wiring off of the back of that alternator. Okay, I've got the alternator just hanging out right there, so there's my wiring I have to get off. I've got the plug out, and then it come out. Once I took that pulley off, that alternator come off really easy. Now I just have to unhook it and go get a new one. So the alternator is out. I just have to go to AutoZone to get the new one, and then I'll put it back on. I've seen where some people have tried to take this off without taking that crankshaft pulley out, but listen, it took me 20 seconds to take that pulley off. Save yourself some aggravation. If you have an impact wrench, if you don't have an impact wrench, you might be screwed, but if you have an impact wrench, put a 5/8 socket on there, go forward like you're tightening it because it is reverse threads, and you just yank that sucker out. That alternator comes right out with no problem. And listen, if you got big hands like me and you decide you want to tackle this project, pack some patience. If you say I'm not a patient guy, then you might not want to attempt this project because it is a challenge. There is no doubt. But I'm going to head off to AutoZone and get the new alternator, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I'm back from AutoZone. I've got the new alternator. I also picked up a brand new serpentine belt. I learned years ago when you got it all apart like this and it's kind of a pain to get apart, you might as well replace stuff like that. I had a Dodge van once. I took it all apart, replaced the timing chain and gears, and put everything back together, drove it around the block for a test drive, and literally by the time I got back from just around the block, my water pump was leaking, so I had to tear it all back down again. So I learned from that point forward, when I've got it all apart like this, your belt's all off anyway, you might as well just replace the belt. So I did. Now I'm going to go ahead and start reassembling this thing. I'm going to start by putting the wires back on. Also, one thing that I think is critical to know, this bolt on the top, the back bolt on the top, that long bolt, you've got to put that into here before you put the alternator back up into place. If you don't put it inside of this sleeve, you will not get that bolt back in there. I tried every way possible to get it out, and I had to get the alternator lowered before I could remove that bolt. So just a heads up there as you're getting ready to reassemble this thing. So I'm going to grab my gloves and start the reassembly process. Okay, I have all three bolts started. I started with the one on the bottom. You can barely see the one in the back. It's right there. I've had to go, I put the bottom one in first, then I've had to go back and forth between the top and the bottom to playing with the front and the back bolt to finally get them both started. Now they've got both top bolts started and the bottom bolt, so now we'll tighten these up. Okay, the alternator is back in. All the bolts are tight on the top. It's tight on the bottom. All the wires are hooked back up. I hooked the O2 sensor back up with the bracket. Now I'm going to put the crankshaft pulley back on. I don't know if I can do this with one hand. Let me pause. Sorry, I'm not good enough to do that on my own, so I had to use two hands to get this started. And now I'll grab the impact, tighten it back up, and then all I have to do is put the bolt on, put the belt back on, then put all this panel back on, and then I'm ready to give it a whirl. Got everything plugged back in, everything working, and now it's back to functioning properly. I got the AC on, headlights on, everything are on right now. Before with the old alternator, it was putting out, with the AC on, sitting idling, it was putting out about 12.5 volts. When I'm moving down the highway, it was fine, but just sitting here it wasn't. But now, with the AC on, everything on, it's kicking out some good voltage, and it'll get my battery charged back up to where it's supposed to be, and then I will be good to go. I hope this has helped somebody. I'm going to try to do more of these videos. I don't know as much as a lot of people when it comes to automotive repair, but I know more than a lot. So if I can help somebody out, that's a good thing for all of us.